music and sponsors and polish it all up, or my team will. I have to just do one quick thing, wait for Instagram Live to kick off. And TikTok does TikTok have a live feature yet or not yet?
Oh, yes, they do.
They do.
They do. I love TikTok Live.
Okay. I am curious if I can, not for this time, but I'm going to have to look into what the requirements are to stream live. If there's a particular number of followers you have to have, or
You need 1,000.
okay, got it. Well, I am absolutely going to make sure I get to 1,000 so I can publish there, because we do publish short form video there, but we really haven't gained any major traction. So I'm excited to maybe do some live stuff. We'll see. Okay, let's do it. All right, we're live on Instagram, right? Okay, so here we go. Turn off my phone. Cool. All right, today on the show, my guest is Linda Ugolo. And let me tell you more about Linda. This is actually a kind of a special episode for us. Linda Ugolo is a speaking confidence and vocal coach. Formerly stricken with public speaking fears herself. And by the way, that's one of the biggest fears here in America. But she now helps entrepreneurs, professionals, and corporate leaders transform their experience of speaking from dread to delight, whether online or on stage. In the media or in the meeting room. She's cultivated a dedicated TikTok following of 150,000 people through engaging and relatable content, and is the host of a podcast and live show, Delight in the Limelight, where she continues to inspire and empower individuals on their journey to confident self-expression. To learn all things Linda, I'm going to send you to her website, lindaugelo.com. I'm going to spell that for you. It's LindaUgelo.com. And I want you to do one thing when you get to her website. The very top of her website, I want you to click on, you're going to get a free chapter of, or I'm sorry, we're going to get you sorry, Linda, I just lost your.
Did it disappear? It's a speaker preparation checklist.
We are going to, thank you. We're going to send you a speaker. Obviously, I was not prepared. We're going to send you a speaker preparation checklist, and it's right on Linda's website. So please check that out, lindaugelo.com. We'll have a link directly to that in the notes. Also want you to subscribe to her podcast, Delight in the Limelight. We'll have a link to that. You can find it anywhere podcasts are served, as well as her book called Delight in the Limelight, which you can find on Amazon. We will have a link to that as well. Linda, it is a pleasure to speak with you.
It's a pleasure to be here. And I especially loved the flub. And I want to ask your listeners to comment and tell DJ, did you mind that he made a mistake? Did it bother you? Or did you say, oh, he can make a mistake too? That means I can. I think that mistakes are incredibly relatable, and I'm so glad it happened right at the beginning of the show.
Well, this is your lucky day. There will be many more along the way, so we can have all these opportunities to show just how imperfect I am. But I do want to speak to that point, because as in the real estate industry, we see a lot of highly glossed, highly produced videos that realtors put out for their listings, which makes sense, and it could be very costly and time consuming. And then a lot of times realtors think, well, okay, I understand doing that for my listings. I want to sort of show the house in the best possible visual and auditory sense. But I'm also doing this other content for my clients or my social media followers. And maybe it's shorter form content. Maybe it's more, here's a quick tip, or whatever kind of content they want to put out. And they're worried that the production value isn't as high, because maybe they're just turning their phone around, clicking Facebook Live, or just, recording and uploading. And I am super curious to get your take on professionally recorded and edited versus turn the phone around and start speaking. So I know that's a big question without a specific answer, but would love to get your thoughts on how someone should start thinking about that.
Well, I think that the easiest way to start is with your phone. And I personally am a turn your phone around and just do it kind of a gal. And when I say just do it, I don't mean don't prepare or don't think about what you're going to say, or it's more that I have come to feel that people respond to you. So the more that you can think about making videos as a journey to discover who you are and how you want to come across, then it becomes more fun. So rather than, I mean, of course, we're doing it to build our following, to build our clientele, but people want to do work with people. So if they get to see what are your quirks, what do you like and what do you love what do you love about realty and what do you love about this particular place that you're highlighting and like bring in your mental narrative even like gosh, when I look at this I think
Mm,
XYZ. And the
yes.
more that you can be discover what is human about you and what's unique about you and not feel like you have to find the ultimate you at video one, but see it more as a journey, you're going to have a lot more fun and people are going to have fun with you.
I totally agree. And back to this idea of being perfect, which I am not, and I don't think I haven't met a perfect person yet. Maybe they exist, but I haven't yet found them. And what I've learned through my my lifetime is that people seem to connect more with imperfection than perfection. It seems to be obviously, as you said, more relatable. We are all, imperfect people, and it's nice to see someone, make a slight flub because we can all relate to that. We all make flubs every day in some way or another. And I've always thought that keeping the flubs in is assuming it's not something that's really taking the quality of the actual video or auditory thing down. It's a good idea to leave it in because I think people just respond better to that.
Yeah, to me it depends. It just depends. I mean, when I make a TikTok video, for instance, I love making videos on TikTok because of their editing features. You can press record, say one line, press it and stop and think about the next thing you're going to say. Then press it and say that next thing and then stop. And it's so there's a lot of stop and starts and you can also clean up, the distance between the two clips. You can move clips around, but it allows me to create something that then I can look over and say, "You know what? I don't need that. I'm just going to delete that part." And it I like to I mean, we all have a standard. We all have an aesthetic that we want to put out. But don't it's better to get something out than to make it perfect
Yeah,
because first of all, how many people are even gonna see it?
right.
So, let's get the viewership first, and then we can figure out like how to refine and just as I said look at it as a long game rather than a short game, so allow yourself to be just where you are when you start out and then you can just get better as you go along, and this is going to make you so much happier and it'll keep you in the game. Now of course one of the things I do want to talk about is what if you don't feel comfortable getting on camera in the
Yes.
first place?
So that was going to be my next question. We know that fear of public speaking, and that doesn't necessarily mean just speaking in front of an audience of dozens or hundreds or thousands. It could be a one-on-one anxiety that someone might feel. It could be an anxiety looking at a phone to film a video. There is anxiety around performance, right? And I would love to talk about how do we push past that, and what are first of all, let's acknowledge how normal it is to have this anxiety, and then what do we do with that?
It's super, super common. And what's weird to me is that if you look at a young child, 2 or 3 years old, they love to express themselves. They love the attention. They thrive on it and depend on it. So, what happens between then and say 10, 20, 30 years later? So, somewhere along the line, we trade in our free self expression for caution
Sure.
and we decide it's safer to hide. And the reasons why, well, there are many. There's our educational system. So, so many things can happen there. You can have a teacher who didn't get you. You can feel pressure to perform before you're ready. You can be ridiculed or, bullied. in public, and any of these things that happen are going to erode at your confidence, and it's going to make you play smaller and smaller and safer, so that you, because you concerned about what other people think, you're concerned about being judged, you're concerned about looking foolish, being laughed at, getting bullied again, or whatever it is. And then of course there's our home life, and our home life can help or exacerbate or do both. Like most of us have mixed childhoods. There are great things about it, and there were some sucky things. Oops, is that not okay to say?
No, of course,
Okay.
of course. Speak freely.
And the thing is, as kids or the younger selves, we don't necessarily have those resources when something happens to figure out, how do I get my mojo back?
So
We
I was just thinking about this the other day. This idea of speaking anxiety, because I suspect that I have less of it than the average person. I've spoken at conferences, and obviously I have this podcast. But I mean, really, this is just one on one. But I've spoken in front of larger groups, and I get nervous too. And what I've learned, I've been studying DBT, dialectic behavior therapy, for years, and one of the sort of the core premises of DBT is that when we're activated, we're activating our sympathetic nervous system, we're in a fight or flight response, which is not particularly useful for accessing the higher cognitive functioning of the brain. When we're in that state, we might feel that we're in danger. There's a threat looming our way. The tiger, the lion's chasing us, and we're trying to get away to save our lives. And so, what the brain does is it shuts down a lot of non-essential functions to allow us to take that energy, redirect it into survival mode. So, all that being said, great for if you're being chased by a lion, not so great if you're about to get on stage, because you will actually lose part of the connection to your frontal cortex, which is where the higher functioning stuff comes in. And so what I was thinking about the other day is how important it will be for me to make sure that before I step foot on a stage again, or speak in front of a group, that I have done my best to activate what's called the parasympathetic nervous system, which is our relaxation piece. It's the part of us that calms us down, gets us centered, allows us back to that access to the higher brain functioning. And usually you could do it through a number of different methods, deep breathing. There's lots of ways. But I realized before I go on a stage again, I'm going to do that, because I used to just fight through the anxiety and get up there. And I always knew that I didn't feel like I was at my best. I just wanted to get through it. So I'm curious to hear your thoughts on that.
I love everything that you're saying, and it's so true that when we need our prefrontal cortex the most is when we're speaking, and that's one of the major reasons why I encourage people to handle or deal with their fear of speaking. So basically, what you're saying is that we want to be able to be present, and in order to be present, we need to address what is keeping us from being present. And when you have symptoms of fear, like the racing heart, the sweaty pits, the dry mouth, whatever, the blush, the stuttering, and of course your brain going a little blank, it's because you are getting triggered. And I think the missing piece that I struggled with myself, because as you mentioned to your audience, I used to struggle with the fear of speaking, is that it's not random. It's not a random emotion. There's always a reason for it. I just named a whole bunch of them. But it's not enough to know that, yes, I got bullied in 7th grade, or my sisters attacked me whenever mom put me in the center of attention. You have to do something with that once you have it. You need to resolve it or clear it or heal it, however you want to language that. But as long as that still is alive and you're carrying it around with you, it's going to get triggered. So what I have discovered as the surest way to be able to be present is to honor the symptoms that we have and follow them back. So if let's say you're afraid of being judged, or you're afraid of looking foolish, use that as a thread back to an earlier part of your life. When were you led to feel foolish? When did you feel judged? And there may be many times. It could be, when you're a kid, it might be when you're an adult. So, but honor them, write them down, and then find some ways to clear or address them so that they're not getting activated. What you need to do is create a new relationship to it, where you don't have the same conclusions. Oftentimes we think, oh, nobody talked to me in seventh grade. That means no one's interested in what I have to say.
Right.
And so now I feel like I don't want to take up anyone's space because they're not really interested in what I have to say. And so I'm just going to mumble or I'm going to speak too fast and to get it over with. And yeah, they're not going to be that interested because they can't really hear me or understand me or I'm rambling, any of these things. So you will do yourself a favor to say, yep, I got stuff just like everybody else, but I've got my stuff. What is my stuff? And
Yeah.
I'm going to do what I need to do. Whether you do hypnotherapy or you read my book in chapter 5, I've got all kinds of ways for you to clear this stuff away. Or you work with somebody, you work with me. But if you address these things and get them out of the way, then you have the possibility of building that skills, building those like people skills, like relating to your audience, bringing in what you talk about, the parasympathetic system of being grounded and centered and your heart is open, you're feeling generous or playful or chill or however it is that you want to come across, because you're not fighting over that mountain of anxiety to get to that place of cool, calm, and collected.
I wonder how it seems like the role of mindfulness would be super helpful here because as we're doing a speaking engagement or we're coming up to something, that interpersonal situation that we are feeling anxious about, and maybe it does go back to that 7th grade trauma experience where you didn't get invited to the party or somebody rejected you or somebody was mean in any way, and it's still there, and we know that now we're much older and those people are no longer a threat. However, that trauma wound is deep and it certainly can come up. And I think via mindfulness, what I've learned through the practice of mindfulness is how to observe my thoughts so I can actually, when that pattern runs, and I do have one from 7th grade, speaking of, and it's not related to this, but it's something else that happened to me that wasn't great. And so as a result, that pattern runs itself. It was a rejection thing. So I have this thing about being rejected. It's like everyone's got to like me because of this thing that happened when I was in 7th grade. Now, I know that's not a particularly useful way to move through my adult life. However, the wound is still there. And I used to be like, oh, just get over it. Come on. You don't have to think about that again. That's silly. And what you said is to honor those parts of us that are there because they are part of us. So via mindfulness, I'm now able to say, ooh, DJ, I just sort of will talk to myself in the third person. It just helps me separate from the anxiety at that time. I'll say DJ is reliving that experience of 7th grade or that trauma of getting rejected, and it's coming up for him right now because he's worried about being rejected. Well, the good news is, then I can take that information and then like you said, use some of the principles that you have in your book to calm myself and to realize, oh, that's not actually happening right now. That, the anxiety might be there, but the actual reason for the anxiety is from a long, 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 long time ago. And I want to honor it. It's there. And I can even say to it, hey, I know you're trying to protect me from future pain or rejection, and I need to have more resources available to me right now so I can communicate effectively. So I honor you. I know you're trying to protect me. We don't need to use you right now, and we can actually then hopefully move on to get those resources to be able to communicate effectively. Um, I
Yeah,
am
that's a great strategy. I would say even better would be not to wait till you're on the stage,
yeah,
but to take some time and explore that experience. And
yes,
maybe one of the things that's very easy to do is forgiveness.
yeah,
Just like say, okay, younger DJ, I forgive you for not knowing how to handle that situation.
exactly.
I
Yep,
forgive you. I forgive you other people for, being 13-year-olds
yeah,
and not knowing, how to be in the world and understand how to be kind and resorting to bullying and I forgive you, DJ, for coming to these conclusions. And then visualize yourself at that younger stage and think, okay, what does this person need from me? What would
yeah,
they have loved to have someone say to them at that time? Like,
yeah,
what would you have loved your parent or a teacher or another friend or a mentor? say to you. And if you do that now, I think it's gonna be a lot easier when you get in front of all those people on stage because it won't be activated in the same way.
Right.
So why manage the fear when you can clear it?
Yeah. No, I think that's absolutely right. There's a great expression called the worst time to learn how to fight is when you're in the middle of a fight, right? So
Yes,
you want to you
yes.
you want to prepare, and what we call is almost future coping, right? So we want to imagine, or what I would do is I would imagine, okay, I've got this big speech in a couple of days. I'm going to I'm going to see myself doing this speech, and really thinking, well, what might my brain and body do as I walk up to that stage, or if I'm backstage, what might it feel like, the nervousness, and then I can do those things. I can say, okay, let's go back to that wound in seventh grade. And what would little DJ have needed back then that he didn't get? That's okay. He's okay today, but back then he wasn't okay, and he didn't get everything he needed. But maybe the older DJ, or a parent, a teacher, a friend, you can visualize coming and giving that person those resources, so that maybe it wasn't so it doesn't have to be as awful and traumatic. But you're absolutely right. I want to switch gears just briefly because I want to talk about TikTok. This certainly is I mean, I've never seen a social media platform grow so quickly through it's just amazing how TikTok has really taken over, and it continues to just be I don't know if it's the largest platform right now, but certainly it and Instagram seem to be one and two. So I'm curious, you have built up a huge following in Instagram, or sorry, in TikTok, which is not easy to do. I've been trying to do it myself, and I know how hard it is. So let's talk about, do realtors need to be on TikTok?
One of the things that I'm aware of with that's particular to realtors is that it's local. And so I guess, everything's an experiment. I mean, I'm aware that because it's local, it may not be to your benefit. However, it could be, because if you find that you enjoy the platform and that you are expanding your self expression and you're making fun videos for you, they're fun or they're interesting in some way, or you're finding some little unique thing that you can put into it, then your local following is going to enjoy that. And there you can become a bit of a local star because you are willing to put yourself out there.
Yeah, I think you're right. I've heard it said that trying to focus on doing all the social media platforms is probably not the best plan, because there's just you only have so much time in the day, and you really have to focusing on one might yield you a better result. So I would say to anyone listening, if you are on TikTok every day absorbing other people's content, you clearly must enjoy the platform. And I would consider playing there. Now, if you think, well, my customers aren't on TikTok, I would think again. I know the average first time home buyer is early 30s, like 31, I think is the current age. 31-year-olds are on TikTok. So if you are looking for the next generation of buyers, that they are there. They're also on Instagram. There are other places too, but they are certainly on TikTok. So um, let's
And
let's
the
talk.
other thing is, if you are on TikTok, you can let your customers know, check out my
Yeah,
TikTok.
yeah,
So you can guide them there.
yeah. I would like to talk about sort of us getting more comfortable in front of the camera. So yes, we talked a little bit about performance anxiety in groups or one-on-one, but sometimes there's a lot of performance anxiety just with the phone turned around looking at us. And I know it happens to me. And I was filming a video yesterday, just a video with me and I think it took me my next door neighbor here in the office must have wanted to kill me, because I think I did 50 takes before I got it right, because I just couldn't quite hit it in the way that I wanted to, and it was really driving me nuts. But for those of us that have fear around, I don't like the sound of my voice, or I don't like how I look on camera, what might you say to those people to help them get over that?
Well, we're kind of have two buckets here. One is getting comfortable on camera, and one is being able to watch yourself on camera without cringing. I actually have I actually have 2 programs. One's called Comfy on Camera, one's called Watch Yourself on Video Without Cringing. And what I'd say about getting comfy on camera is that we don't realize that we can practice very small things. For instance, if you want to feel relaxed on camera, literally practice relaxing on camera. You turn the
Yeah.
camera on, close your eyes, say, okay, I'm relaxing my shoulders, I'm relaxing my hips, my legs. Go through your whole body, do a whole body scan, make a video like that. These are different prompts that I guide people through, and you can do it too. Do the same thing with your eyes open, looking at the camera lens. Create a new relationship to the lens. How do you feel about the lens? Do you think, "Oh my god, I hate you and I don't feel comfortable?" Well, what kind of a friendship is that? So you need to create a sense of relationship that's positive. What do you appreciate about the lens? Who are you able to speak to that you wouldn't be able to otherwise? You're like, what is this amazing technology? So allow yourself to even speak out loud, your gratitude for this actual piece of plastic and tech that's there. So practice that feeling of connection with the lens. Practice the connection that or the receiving of attention, like literally turn on the video and say, okay, I'm imagining people's viewing me and I'm just receiving it like a gift. So, like, these are very, very small things, and then you can bring in, your voice and actually talking and telling stories, but use it as a process of experimentation and getting to know things. So, like what you did yesterday, the 50 takes, even though you do not wanna do that every time you make a video,
No, but it happens.
but it happens, and the one time I did 50 takes was when I had written a rap and I was using my video takes to memorize the rap. Now, with today's technology, you don't have to memorize things. You can say, even without, I described how I use TikTok and turning on and off the recording, but you can do the same thing, just letting the recording run. You can say one thing and then look at your script and then say another thing and then look at your script and then you can edit it out
Mhm.
later. So there are times that I want to just have a whole minute where I'm not edited, but I'm just talking, and yes, that's gonna take a little bit longer, and it'll take a different kind of preparation. The way you need to prepare for that is to make bullet points, like, you might do a run through just to say, "Okay, what is it that I'm even wanting to say?" I use the video to figure out what I wanna say. Some people go to ChatGPT or they write something out, but I like to talk it out. So that's my way. I talk it out first and I go, okay, these are the things that I think are important. And then I write them down and then I'll remake the video. And if you think through, if you take time to think through, you are more likely to get through your video without having to do it that many times. Tell me though, DJ, what were some of the considerations that made a take not usable? What did you
S-
not like?
So what I didn't share was that I was doing what you were saying, which was I was working out the script as each take. And I wanted to try to do that. So normally, if I had written the script, somewhat word for word ahead of time, I would have only taken a couple of takes, 2, 3, maybe at most. But I was going the long way around, and I wasn't totally sure what I wanted to say. So the reason why it took 50 takes was because I was trying different things, seeing how it landed to me, and then trying to just cherry pick the best. There's a more efficient way for me to do that. Certainly does need to take 50 takes, but that's what happened yesterday. And I want to just go back to one quick thing you said that I think is really, really important, which is this idea of building a relationship with your recording device, probably your phone. And you're absolutely right. If I stare at those lenses, and mine has the three, I have the iPhone with the three ones on the back, and if I get anxiety just looking at those lenses, it's probably going to show up on camera. And I think back. I'm a guitar player. I've been playing guitar whole life, my whole life. I have definitely a relationship with my guitars, and every person who's a musician or plays an instrument probably can relate to that. And I never thought about building that relationship with the three lenses on the back of my camera, but or back of my phone. But that would actually be really helpful, because wouldn't it be great if when I sat down and turned that camera around, that immediately I felt, wow, I might just say something that actually could help somebody. I might just have a tip that might be exactly what somebody needs. And this is my opportunity. Now, how cool is it that I don't need a bunch of super expensive equipment? I mean, I have a super expensive phone, and we probably all do. So we can just use that. And how amazing is that? So I love this idea of building a positive relationship with the camera. And it sounds maybe a little woo woo silly, but it's not, because we all know when we look at certain things and we have negative associations with them, it really sticks and it's hard. So I just wanted to honor you for saying that. I would have never thought to develop a relationship with with a piece of plastic and metal, but it is absolutely a great idea, because I want to be confident and I want to have fun when I'm doing these videos. And I
Mhm.
know that if I think this is going to be fun, then it's more likely to reduce my anxiety and just have a better product. So, so thank you for that. I think that
Yeah,
is
you're
an
welcome.
incredible tip.
Yes, I do wanna, also respond to the watching yourself on video without
Yeah,
cringing. So, one of the things I love about video is that there's nothing that allows us to be more cognizant of our self-criticism than watching ourselves on camera. It's just rises right to the surface. Otherwise, sometimes it's really hard to catch ourselves being mean to ourselves because it's so familiar.
yeah,
We don't catch, like, "Who do you think you are?" I mean, it's just like that just is in the back of our brain. Although it does impact us, and it's very important to clear these things away. But with video, it's like all you have to do is turn on with something you've made, and immediately you go, "Oh my god, that's awful." And so this is a process that I teach all my clients to, again, honor the critic, because the critic is pointing to something significant for us, some ideal, some standard of aesthetic, something that we're striving for, and it's pointing to a place we're stuck.
yeah,
So what I and the critic is noisy. So I say, if it's noisy, it wants to be heard, let's listen to it. So I recommend you watch yourself and you make a list of all the things you can't stand, and just hang on to that. And we go back, we go through, and we look at all the things that we can like and appreciate. And I make it a game for myself and for my students. I always say, after you've like number the criticisms you have to find as many positives plus one. And usually people have to watch a video 3 or 4 times to get that number, because it's so hard for us to look for the positive. It's so easy for us to find the negative. So once you have those, your negative stuff, you can forgive yourself for having them. And then you can also take a look at them, because you'll notice that some things are things we can't change. The shape of your nose, the crooked teeth. I mean, you could change it, but we most likely won't. And so we have to come to a place of acceptance and honoring. So I had a thing with my nose because my mother told me my nose was ugly. So, and she
mm,
wanted me to get a nose job, and I didn't, but I absorbed that self-consciousness. So I realized, number one, I talk about this in a chapter of my book on healing our self-image. Like, our bodies they're not just visual, they are functional. And can you breathe through your nose? Isn't that amazing that we get to breathe through our nose? And I have a very good functioning nose. I'm really happy about it. The other thing about my nose is that it comes from the generations behind me. So it's like I get to carry on the genetics of my ancestors. And I do want to honor them. And I also know that nose shapes are, they go in and out of fashion. So, like, who's to say that one shaped nose is better than another? It's like, where does that even come from? So, so to find a way to honor and accept the things that can't be changed. And then the things that can be changed, like, why should we get upset if they can be changed? But what we do with the inner critic is that we invite it to become more skillful in self-communication.
Yeah.
So rather than it having a lousy way of expressing itself, which it does, but why leave it there? Say, let's see how you can say it in a nicer way. And can you help me? If you don't like the way I'm waving my arms around, I always wave my arms. Uh, what can I do instead? And then allow that discerning voice. And the critic is a discerning voice. Let it come out with more of its wise suggestions. And it might say, I don't know, it might say, feel the weight of your arms and just let them hang and see what it feels like. It's going to feel awkward, but just try that out. Or feel like your elbows are at your waist and let your hands wave around. And you don't necessarily have to talk that way all the time, but try it out as an exercise. And then you say, thank you. What else? And then just let that part of your personality become more of your ally.
I love that. And first, you said a lot. So I want to unpack it a little bit because there was so much good stuff there. So I love the idea of, because I suffer from, I don't watch my stuff back. Occasionally I'll listen to an episode, and I probably should listen to more of them because I would most likely get information that I could use to even better my performance on these podcasts. So, and I owe that to the listeners. So I certainly should be doing that. And I haven't done it because of this ideal that you're talking about, that I don't want to look at my I've done 600 episodes. I don't want to listen to them because I will find imperfections with all of them, which again, we're all imperfect. There's always imperfection, but I'm going to say, oh, I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have done that. I should have not said or ah, or I repeated a question twice, or asked two questions at the same time. And these are things that happen. And as a result, I need to work on this myself because I think honoring my imperfections and realizing that it's actually the only way is to have imperfection, really, unless you're, on unless you're taking an Instagram picture and you hit that filter that just makes everything look perfect, which I think has done us a lot of harm, actually, because we now expect perfection in our visual, life, as well as, a lot of other things. And it's just not reality at all. But I love this idea of going through and seeing the things that critiques that I have, and then writing all the positives that I can, plus one more than the negatives. And we're not trying to cancel the negatives out. What we're trying to do is honor both sides. There are things I like about my performance. There's things that I'd like to improve about my performance. Both are true. That's a very dialectic approach. Both are true at the same time. And we can now work with that. So if there's things that we can work on, if it's a skill, for example, you can go inside and say, okay, I'd like to work on the skill for my hands, or I'd like to work on my ums and ahs. And I'm not going to beat myself up because everybody's imperfect. And I'm a learning machine. I'm going to learn for the rest of my life. I'm always going to have the opportunity to learn something new. And just being, so the reality, so back to my problem with, I don't like to watch myself, is because I have an ideal that I should be this amazing broadcaster. I should be perfect. And if I watch a video, it's going to show me that I am not. So what I have to work on is, why do I have why do I have that ideal? Who is that? Whose voice is that telling me I have to be better or perfect? Right. And then I can work with that, and I can take that to, a therapist. I could take it to my inside and go inside and say, what's that about? How could I, change that so that I honor the imperfections, read a Brene Brown book, maybe, or some one of those, kind of things. But you're absolutely right. It's not just filming, it's also watching back. And I don't want to feel cringe. I don't want to feel a sense of a cringy feeling when I go back and watch my videos. But in order for me to do that, I have to put myself in a state that says there's going to be imperfections in this video or this audio recording. And it makes me human. And it's a good thing that there's imperfections, because, that's the world, that's just human nature.
And also, they're there for me to as a springboard to grow. So, how about if I go back and find one or two things that I'd like to improve?
Yeah. One of the things, it's really funny. I'm just going to mention this because it sort of ties in my girlfriend and I, we do a thing every Sunday, and this is the coolest. I really encourage everyone. You can look this up. Just Google the Gottmans have a weekly check-in that they recommend for couples, and it starts with 5 things that the other person did. So it's basically recapping the week and planning the next week. And what you do in the first 10 minutes or so is you one by one go over what were 5 things my partner did last week that I really appreciated. And so you have to think that's not easy to do sometimes because we're like, I don't remember what happened this last week. So you have to kind of go through and then you're going one by one and you're giving this appreciation back and forth. And it's a magical thing. And it's something that I would never think to do on my own. So this idea of actually in with your technique, really it's the same idea. What we're doing is we're looking at a performance and we don't just want to see what's wrong. We want to also honor what went well or what we appreciate about ourselves. It's this idea of honoring, all of us, the dark and the light at the same time, and saying this is the human experience. And if I'm going to think about the negatives, I should also think about the positives with equal weight. And yeah.
Yeah, and that's a cool thing, and I think I may try that on with my partner. I also do a daily evening ritual, similar but more on a personal level, where I think of 5 things from the day that I appreciate in myself
Yeah.
or that I'm proud of, and 5 things that I forgive myself for, so that it's not like I just feel bad, but I forgive myself for not getting around to that. I forgive myself
Wow.
for eating blah blah blah. I forgive myself for not getting enough exercise or whatever it is. And I feel like these are important for speaking confidence. It seems like it's not related, but any place that we feel more grounded, more sure and confident in who we are, and compassionate with ourselves, where we can forgive quickly, because forgiveness is, I think, a practice. And that's
Hmm.
one of the things that I like doing it daily, is that if I make a mistake, speaking here or whatever, I blank out, I forgive myself quickly. And I can forgive myself quickly because I've practiced doing that. That's why I say nothing is too small to practice. We need to be able to let go and move on. Like if I stumble, it's like blah, 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 big deal. Just move on or make a joke, or we can feel, if we can honor and accept ourselves just where we are with compassion, then we are freer to express ourselves because we're not afraid of taking risks and having things mess up once in a while. It's okay. It's okay. We didn't learn that skill in school, by the way.
No, we definitely did not. And this idea of forgiveness is a practice. It's a discipline, and it's something that we didn't learn, as you said, and it's something that we can learn. But it takes time, and it is going to be this is a skill you do want to develop, so that because you're an imperfect person, it'd probably be a good idea to learn how to handle your imperfections, right? I think that is a great suggestion. I'm going to start doing that. What are 5 things I can forgive myself for, or what are 5 things I wish or I'd like to do better in the future? Maybe something that I didn't quite get done today. This is all what we're really all talking about is removing these expectations that we have to be a certain way. We're removing expectations so we could just be authentically ourselves and have all the resources within us to be able to effectively communicate. And also just want to mention to people, this is always a stat that people forget. It's something like only 12, and I might have this number wrong, but something like only 12% of verbal communication is actually what you say. And the rest, I believe, is in the way you say it. It could be your body posture, your tonality, all sorts of other things that are nonverbal. And so this idea of getting calm and centered is going to translate onto the screen, maybe even more so than what you're actually saying.
Indeed.
Well, we are this, Linda, you've given us so much amazing content. I want everybody right now to consider checking out Linda's website. In fact, don't consider it, just go do it. What you want to do is you're going to want to go to lindaugelo.com. That's LANDAUGELOW. And you're going to, right when you get to our website, the speaker preparation checklist is right in front of you, the big download now button. Download that so that I know I'm going to download it and use it in my shows going forward so that I'm prepared, because I need a preparation checklist as well. And this will help you in all your interpersonal interactions. She also has a podcast, which is called Delight in, oh my gosh,
The
Linda,
limelight.
Delight in the Limelight, which is also the name of her book. So we have a link to it on Amazon. Tell us really quickly what the book is about.
The book is the guide to bring you from the dread of speaking to loving it instead. So I don't want my yes, I want you to get over your fear of speaking, but I want you to love all the speaking that you do, because speaking is our human design. And when you clear this stuff away from your past, when you reorganize your relationship with yourself and how you speak to yourself, then you are free to really just expand into who you are as a person. And there's nothing quite as satisfying as getting to express yourself, feeling comfortable and calm, whether it's with friends, around the dinner table, with your clients, or on TikTok. It's like when we can feel free in ourselves, it's like this is what I don't know, it just feels like this is a huge part of life is how we communicate. Let's make it as good as it can be.
Yeah, I couldn't agree. Effective communication is a skill, and it is something that you can practice. And Linda's exactly the kind of person that can help you practice. She does private coaching, she does group coaching, she does all. She has programs online. She has a podcast. She has a book. She's amazing, right? She's got all the different, and she's got an amazing TikTok following too. So Linda is really good at this. So please check her out. She will give you all of the exercises and skills that you should shoot for, and she will be there to guide you along the way. And she even has a course on how to get started in TikTok. So check that one out as well. LindaUgolo.com is the place to go. Again, we will have a link to that in the show notes. Linda, you've been amazing, and I absolutely enjoy talking with you. And notice how intentional Linda's voice has been throughout this interview. She has been thoughtful, conscientious. She thinks before she speaks. I don't always do that, but she was doing that. And I love that because it really helps me even slow down a little bit and become a better broadcaster. So Linda, on behalf of our audience, thank you for all the amazing tips. On behalf of our audience, thank you, Linda. Or I'm sorry, on behalf of our audience, thanks, Linda. And on behalf of Linda and myself, thanks to the audience. We appreciate you. We love having you here. And again, the best way to help us is to tell a friend. Think of another realtor that you know that could benefit from hearing from an amazing vocal coach like Linda, and shoot them a link to this podcast. Have them subscribe. Also, leave us a review. Let us know what you think of the show. What improvements could we make? What do you like? What don't you like? Let us know so we can keep getting better and better. All right, we will see everybody on the next episode. Thank you, Linda.